We're back with a Fox News alert. Overnight, at least 10 rockets fired at an airbase housing U.S. troops in Iraq. It follows the Biden administration's airstrike on Syria.
Here with what this might mean for the future of the U.S. in the Middle East, Armed Services Committee member, South Dakota Senator Mike Rounds. Good morning to you, sir. So we're getting word that Iran is possibly responsible. We're waiting for confirmation on that. What are your thoughts on where this leaves us with Iran as President Biden also tries to possibly renegotiate this Iranian nuclear deal?
Still a very dangerous part of the world. We still have men and women in harm's way, but they're there for a purpose. In this particular case, we're assuming it's probably militia that did it, but it's militia that are backed by Iran. We don't know for sure yet. It's really early in the process, but nonetheless, Iran is the problem child in the region. They continue to try to manipulate and to influence activity in Iraq. But we've got men and women that are in harm's way, and we should never forget that we owe them the appropriate funding, the appropriate tools, and so forth to make sure that they can be as safe as possible.
Here at home, Senator, you and your fellow senators are expected to take up the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill as soon as today. Chuck Schumer, look, he's saying he's got the votes. Do they?
Yeah, they probably do. It only takes, remember, in the Senate, we're divided 50-50. The vice president will break the tie. They'll keep their people in line for the final vote. So votes count. Every single vote counts. It hurt when we lost both United States Senate seats in Georgia. If we could have retained even one of them, we wouldn't be having this. We wouldn't be spending $1.9 trillion. Our focus needs to be on winning the 2022 election cycle, getting back in and being able to negotiate once again and saving some dollars for taxpayers. This is going to be a $1.9 trillion long-term payment plan that's going to do a lot of left-wing activity for us that we didn't want. We suggested that if they really wanted to work with Republicans, we would start at $600 billion for additional relief, including extended unemployment benefits and so forth, more for vaccines, more for testing. We were all basically in agreement with that. But in this particular case, the Democrats want to do something that will extend and provide them with a slush fund for the next 4 to 5 years. That means that they can change the appropriations process, reduce the amount that they want that we would like to see in for armed services activity, and still be able to have a slush fund left over for some of their causes. This is not a good way to do business.
Just quickly, Manchin and Sinema are on board with this?
Well, what they'll do is they'll work to try to reduce some of the areas, but when it's all said and done, they will vote with the other Democrats on a final package.
So, Mitch McConnell, he called the COVID relief bill a bonanza of partisan spending. What do you think the Senate version is actually going to look like? Do you think it's going to have the money going to blue states that shut down and, all those things that conservatives have been criticizing about the House bill?
What's restricting the Democrats in the Senate is that we have what we call the Byrd rule, named after Robert Byrd, in which if you're going to do reconciliation, and that's where they get to do this one bill per year, normally, one bill per appropriation cycle, with 50 votes, 51 votes actually. But you can't do a lot of policy stuff. You've got to do things that basically direct tax and spend activities. And it's a complicated version, but certain items you can't do. You can't earmark stuff within the bill specifically, such as what they tried to do for Speaker Pelosi with her tunnel out there in California. Those types of activities will not fly under the Byrd rule. And so some of the stuff is going to get taken out. The minimum wage was taken out because it does not impact our budget. And so the items like that the House stuck in there make it more difficult for Senate Democrats to get something done. It'll slow the process down, but it won't kill the project. They'll still be able to spend $1.9 trillion. It's a matter of how they go about directing the funds to be spent over the next 10 years.
You mentioned the Pelosi somewhere to nowhere, $140 million for it, axed out of the COVID relief bill. Here is Nancy Pelosi's office response. Now that two projects Republicans misled the public about in the House bill have been removed, it is unclear how Republicans will justify their opposition to the American Rescue Plan, which has strong bipartisan support among the public. 45 seconds on this last answer, Senator. Was this all part of Pelosi's strategy?
I don't think so. I think this is a case where they were going to try to get as much stuff in as they possibly could. And in this particular case, it did not work. I don't think they quite understand all of the technicalities found within the Byrd rule, but they were going to do their best to please as many of the folks on the far left as they possibly could. They got the votes they needed, but in order to get the votes, they had to make some promises to people over there. Remember, not all Democrats voted for it. There was more of a bipartisan vote against it in the House than what there was for it in the House. In the Senate, I think it'll be down along party lines.
Interesting.
Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
All right, Senator Mike Rounds, thank you so much for waking up early for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.